Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode five. Episode five, the big old five. We're halfway there, Drew. Halfway through the summer sports spectacular. For those of you who are new, this is going to be a big one for us because for the first time ever, we are recording live from Drew's basement. That's right. I'm Jordon Lawrenz here with Drew Skyberg. Drew, in person, face to face. This is going to be interesting.
Jordan, this is going to be very interesting. I'm looking forward to this. And I just think of in our future, maybe if we ever do a live podcast gig, this is a good start.
Oh, I can't wait. We were working on it, guys, and then we got ghosted, as they say. So there will be no live show at blank. We won't say where. We won't disclose the location at this point, but hopefully in the future. Big Apple, hey, Rockwood. I know you guys got a sports show there. I'm calling you out. Let's go. Jordan and Drew the Sports Crew live, if only, right? But this isn't Jordan and Drew the Sports Crew, the normal podcast. This is the Summer Sports Spectacular, episode 5. As I said, we're halfway there, and today we got our first taste of college basketball, the 1983-1984 NCAA Division I men's basketball season saw Georgetown and Houston make it to the finals of the March Madness tournament. It is an interesting tournament. We're going to talk all about it, but before we get there, we've got some rule changes, and Drew, I'm going to have you read these bad boys. This first one, actually, they're both really interesting, but the first one really, really stands out.
Yeah, it was Jordan. And here's the first rule. If a team was in the bonus situation within the last 2 minutes of the game and all of overtime, common fouls resulted in 2 free throws. This rule is changed back to the 1-and-1 free throw situation after a month due to its unpopularity. And Jordan, what do you think of this rule?
I just don't understand. What is the thinking process behind this? So you get fouled with under 2 minutes to go in the most crucial part of the game. This is when someone goes to the line in college, 1-and-1. This is the big situation. Put all the pressure on them. If they make one, good. They get a second. They deserve the second free throw. If they miss and they fold under the pressure, they don't get that second free throw. That's when you got to fight for a rebound. I don't understand why they would have shot 2.
Yeah, and I agree, Jordan. And I think in this game, especially the game we watched today, I think we saw a lot of free throws, and I can only imagine if there was the 2 free throw common foul rule implemented in this game.
Way too many free throws. We'll get to it soon, but these refs, about as ticky-tacky as you can get. And something else we noticed in this game, there was no shot clock, or at least if there was one, it must have been like a minute long and they never mentioned it. But I certainly don't think there was a shot clock in this game. However, there was one experimented with.
Yes, and here's the second rule, Jordan. Several conferences were granted permission to experiment with a 45-second shot clock for either for the entire game or shut off in the last 4 minutes of the second half. The 3-point shot then went from 19 feet, and coaching boxes were implemented to limit coaches to their bench areas.
So that's like, the coaching box thing I don't really get because like coaches are going to be wherever they want anyways. And like, that's whatever. 3-point line. Woo. We got a lot to talk about when it comes to 3-pointers in the game, but this shot clock, I want to reread part of that either for the entire game or shut off in the last 4 minutes of the second half. Why would it be shut off for the last 4 minutes? That's like with the bonus situation. That's when you want the 1-and-1 situation to put the pressure on. You're telling me a team's going to hold the ball the final 4 minutes?
Yeah, I don't understand the idea behind that. The NCAA made horrible decisions in the 83-84 season, and I'm glad they were implemented and they were experimenting them because this would have been I'm glad the shot clock they're working towards it, but a 45-second shot clock, really?
I mean, it's better than nothing at this point, but still, that is oof. I don't know how many conferences used it and what did and what didn't. I don't know, but and speaking of rules, I mean, 53 team tournament. We'll talk all about it in a minute. The most wild March Madness of all time, I would have to say. We're going to get to it, but first, coming into the season, who was the top team? Who was it, Drew?
Of course, North Carolina Tar Heels, Jordan.
Michael Jordan, unstoppable. I can't wait to read all the awards this dude got. He literally got every award. Like, there's no mistake about it. He's got every single one of them. The number 2 team was Kentucky. So you want to talk about teams that are always in the top, always doing well. Besides this past year in college basketball, Kentucky has been always up there. North Carolina 1, Kentucky 2, and then number 3 is Houston. and number 4 is Georgetown. So this Houston team was in 3 Final Fours in the past 4 years, I believe, something like that. They were in back-to-back finals. It was a very, very good Houston team, and they ended up making it back into the finals once again, thankfully, or not thankfully, thanks to the leading rebounder per game in the whole Division One. Who was it, Drew?
Hakeem Olajuwon from Houston. And we have a great story about Hakeem Olajuwon. We're going to talk about right away here. And the great story is his name here is spelled Hakeem, A-K-E-E-M, not H-A-K-E-E-M.
Not Hakeem, it's Akeem.
And the reason being is we had to do some research because we were watching the game and we're like, what's going on here? Are they forgetting the H? Are they misspelling it? And did some research. And in 1991, there's a great story about it where he said he is Hakeem no more. He is now going to change his name back to Hakeem. It was originally Hakeem, and he immigrated from where was it, Jordan? Do you know? It was like from like
that's a good question.
Oh, he immigrated back in, and then what happened was
it Nigeria?
I think it was somewhere from there.
Somewhere around there.
And they changed his name in the United States. They changed it from Hakeem to Akeem, and he never really changed his name. They changed it for him. So then in America, it was Nigeria, by the way, is what we've confirmed. And then when that happened, he just when he went back to his home country of Nigeria, his mom asked him always, why did you change your name?
Yeah,
And
his mom was like,
And when mama tells you something, you gotta change
You
it.
better
So
listen.
he said he is Hakeem no more. He is now Hakeem, which is his original name.
I mean, it is a wild story. Like, we never knew for sure. And I also wanted to point out on the back of his jersey, it said Akeem. It didn't say his last name. It didn't say Olajuwon. It said Akeem, A-K-E-E-M. And thanks in part, he got this team to the finals, no doubt about it. 67.5% shooting on the year. Absolutely remarkable. Leader in points per game was Joe Jakubik from Akron University. He averaged over 30 a game, 30.1 points per game. So that's basically everything for these two teams, or for the division, I could say, Division One stats wise. Going now to the tournament itself. I went on the Wikipedia page right away. First sentence: the 1984 NCAA Division I men's basketball tournament involved 53 schools. And I was like, Drew, 53? Like, this doesn't even add up. Doesn't make any sense. We know it's 64 or 68 nowadays, I should say, with the play-in games and stuff. But 53, like, what in the world is going on here? But we figured it out. We moved down and we figured out that there was 5 different play-in games: Northeastern and Long Island, Richmond and Ryder, Morehead State and North Carolina AT&T, Alcorn State and Houston Baptist, Princeton and San Diego all fought to get into this tournament. 4 of those games determined the 12 seed and 1 determined an 11 seed, which is wild to me. Like, why? It makes no sense. Why are there 5 play-in games in the first place? But then from here, there were 4 regionals. We had the East Regional, which was led by number 1 North Carolina, the Midwest, led by number 1 DePaul, Mid-East, led by number 1 Kentucky, and the West, led by number 1 Georgetown. Interesting to note, Houston was not a 1 seed. They were the 2 seed in the Midwest Regional, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But each of these was 8 teams. And Drew, can you explain how many teams got a bye? Because it was absolutely ridiculous. 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed, they all get a bye.
That is ridiculous, Jordan. And this seed tournament was so unique in itself. I was looking at the tournaments and how they were structured every year. And this tournament is the only March Madness tournament ever to be structured the way it was, with the 5 play-in games. And was it the 12 first round buys that they were given?
16, 4 times 4.
Oh, it's 16. You said the 1 through 4 got buys?
Yeah, 1 through 4.
1 through 4 got
1 through
buys?
4 and 4 regionals.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, there's 16 buys then. That's ridiculous. And this was the only one to ever have such ramifications in it. So that's kind of crazy to me.
Yeah, but thankfully, right? I mean, who would want to see this? Like, the 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, 4 seed all get buys in each of the regionals. unbelievable stuff. So North Carolina, led by Michael Jordan, they lost in the Sweet 16 to Indiana, 72-68, and Indiana then lost to number 7 Virginia in the Elite Eight. So absolutely wild stuff there. I'm trying to look for some big upsets. I mean, 12 Richmond beat number 5 Auburn, and obviously Richmond had to play their way to get in. Louisiana Tech, the 10 seed, beat the 7 seed Fresno State. It was number 2 Houston getting out of this regional. Houston on their way to the finals. Beat Louisiana Tech 77-70, beat Memphis State 78-71, and then beat Wake Forest 68-63. So they knocked off a 10 seed, a 6 seed, and a 4 seed. Then going to Kentucky side, number 1 Kentucky made it all the way to the Final Four. The only big upset here is number 11 West Virginia beating number 6 Oregon State 64-62, and then Georgetown side, number 10 Dayton made it all the way to the Elite Eight. Sadly did not make it to the Final Four because Georgetown, they beat them. Listen to this. Georgetown beats SMU 37-36. Can you imagine watching that game? What is that?
That's a girls' basketball score, Jordan. And let me tell you, thankfully, none of their other games were like that, and the championship game was not low scoring like that. So I'm glad we didn't have a game like that because that would have been boring.
And honestly, our game was boring enough down the stretch. Like it got kind of bad towards the end of it. Georgetown then beat UNLV, the 5 seed, 62-48. And then, like I said, Dayton, they win 61-49. So our Final Four is set. Houston beats Virginia 49-47. Real close game there. Georgetown beats Kentucky 53-40. That wrapped things up, and we are heading to the championship game. 38,471 people filled up the Kingdome in Seattle for this game. Drew, we turned the game on, watched a game together for the first time ever, live, in person. What were your thoughts right away as we turned this game on?
I thought the crowd, Jordan, was electric. They were chanting the whole game. They were chanting air ball during the free throws, no matter who was shooting. And I just thought the atmosphere was phenomenal. We'll talk about the play-by-play guys. But, Jordan, what do you think of them? Let's get out of the way.
Well, yeah, let's talk about them first as I open up my notes to figure out exactly who they were. But they were not good. Gary Bender and Billy Packer. So Billy Packer, the color guy, I thought he sounded a lot like the guy who did NBA, but we looked up. He didn't. He's not the same guy. Gary Bender, I still have the tab open. This guy was all over the place, and we have to give him a shout out. He started his career in Wisconsin. 1969 to 1975 was the sports director at WKOW-TV in Madison. Then he did Packer radio play-by-play for 5 years, did 1 year of the Brewers play-by-play on TV. So, I mean, this dude was a sports director, radio play-by-play, TV play-by-play, and then did NFL on CBS. I don't know how he got that transition, but good for him to be able to do that. Color commentary, Billy Packer. Not good.
No.
Just not good.
He was horrible, Jordan. Sometimes we talked about during the game. He would just talk to talk. It wasn't even insightful. It was just like he was like, "Oh, I think he traveled," and then they go back to the replay. Oh, actually, look, he's using his pivot foot.
Clear
Like, no
fundamentals.
way. And it was just, not a good color commentary outing for Mr. Packer.
No, it really wasn't at all. But it was a good outing for Michael Young to start this game. He was 3 of 3 with 6 points as his team led 8-2. Houston was up early to start this game. They were 5 of 5 shooting to begin the game, and then things went a little downhill. 3 straight turnovers started costing them a bit, and 2 goaltends. And Drew, I think around this point, 14-14 game after the goaltends, after some of the fouls, we realized these refs, they're not letting anything slide in this game.
We knew we were in for a long game, and spoiler, the game doesn't end the game does not go to overtime, but it felt like it was in a couple overtime game based on how many fouls were called, all these ticky-tacky offensive fouls. Even there were some that were interesting, a technical foul that even occurred.
Oh, yeah, we'll get to that in a bit.
But there was just terrible calls and not a good thing for the officials. And Jordan, in episode 4, we mentioned that the officials were chosen by merit. Let me tell you, these officials were not chosen by merit. They volunteered or something. This was tough.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on. Like, you're in the championship game, right? Final game, these two teams let them duke it out. They didn't let anything slide. I mean, we'll talk about the technical in a bit. Maybe the craziest call I've ever seen in my entire life, and not in a good way. I mean, I was at the Bucks game 1. We talked about it. Bucks and Hawks, the foul on Pat Connaughton. This technical foul, 100 times worse. Like, it's not even close how bad this call was. But moving forward in the game, Georgetown has their first lead of the game. It's 18-16, but we noticed this Georgetown team does everything around their big men. They can't shoot the ball to save their lives.
No, they couldn't, Jordan. And one thing we know, because the 3-point arc is very new to college in 1984, and neither of the teams wanted to use it. Georgetown was focusing with their bigs. They take some middies, and they would miss those middies, but they got bailed out by Patrick Ewing and Graham, and they would just get some easy boards. They were feasting.
Yeah, they were. And the 3-pointers, let's talk about that for a second. So you obviously told me how it was pretty new at the time, and there was one point in the second half. This dude, I don't remember who it was wide open to take a 3-pointer. He dribbles in 2 dribbles and takes a jumper, which he did make. And it's just, I don't understand. Like, what is they were scared to shoot threes. That's really all it was. No one wanted to shoot a 3-pointer. It's like Coach said, you're getting benched if you shoot a 3. Like, I think he feared it into them because they were just, no one shot threes. I don't think we saw a single 3-pointer all game long. And
it's not even a stat on here.
You're right. It just says field goals attempted, field goal percentage. Nowhere does it say 3-pointers. Let's check Georgetown just to be sure. Nope, no 3-pointers. And we've got free throws, field goals. That's it. There's no 3-pointers on here, which is crazy. We know how much the game has changed, but like Drew said, they really ran Georgetown around their big man. I mean, Patrick Ewing for sure did some really good things, but foul trouble early because I mentioned these refs are calling everything. That's in my notes in all caps. Georgetown takes a 32-22 lead, 5.5 minutes to go in this game, and we see a Houston 1-3-1. They start to change up their defense, and it worked.
It really did, and it kind of caught Georgetown off guard. I mean, they were turnovers left and right, and Houston started to get some momentum, and then what would happen is Georgetown would just kind of just go back, and they'd kind of go on their own run, and it just kind of went back and forth. Not really lead changes or ties or anything. It was just Georgetown always in cruise control, it felt like, and they were always staying in the lead.
That's a good way to put it. Georgetown, once they took that 10-point lead, they weren't looking back, and they did everything in their power to keep the lead, except one call, I should say, that went against them. It was not even close. This call, 5 seconds against Georgetown. What was this? I thought it was a travel. The far ref was signaling for a travel. And the close ref, we rewound it to watch again. He held up his hand and he said 5 seconds, 5 seconds. He was dribbling. He moved in. The defenders went around him. And then he just stopped for a second. He was going to do something. And they called 5 seconds. And we rewound it, like I said. And once he got the ball, I counted. I was only at 4. I don't know where the 5 came from.
I don't know what the ref was calling. The announcers, the play-by-play, color commentary guys, they were confused too, and I don't blame them. Nobody in the arena even knew what was going on. But I'm assuming the ref, like you said, he must have gave a great explanation to the coach, because as a coach, I would have been livid. I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, they mentioned that too. They said that the coach for Georgetown, he got talked to. They went to a break after this, and he understood and he let it go. Color commentary guy, he got hot. I mean, he had a few things in this game where he was ranting. He was not happy. And this was one of them. The 5-second call made no sense at all. So Hakeem, whatever you want to call him, he has 3 fouls late here in the first half. Not a good look for him, as he's got to play. I mean, they're got to be safe with him, right? That's one of your biggest players. You need him down the stretch. And like we said, a lot of fouls, so a lot of free throws. And I don't know why it took this long to realize, but after his 3rd foul, we realized they had 4 guys on the free throw line shooting. So the free throw guy was there shooting the ball, obviously. And then there was everyone, if you've ever seen a game of basketball, you know how it's lined up. I mean, they've got the free throw shooter, and then they've got 3 and 3 on each side. One defender is going to box out the one guy who's going to go for the offensive rebound. Same thing on the other side. And then you've got 2 guys to box out the shooter if you want, or one can just try and go in and get a board, or you could double team someone if you need to double them up. I mean, there's plenty of options. But in this, they had players under the block. They had 4 players for each team. So there was only one guy sitting at the top, back at the half court line. This looked ridiculous. It didn't even look right.
Yeah, it didn't look like anything we're used to seeing. And there's a few things in this game that like it's something you wouldn't see from 37 years later, Jordan. This was some old time stuff.
It really was. And like it just looks so weird. I mean, we're used to 3-pointers being thrown. We're used to people getting away with travels. We're used to 3 seconds not being a call. We're used to all these things. And for them to go so far backwards in this game, absolutely crazy. First half, only half an hour. So first half kind of flew by. High scoring too. Georgetown leads 40-30. And then second half starts. Hakeem gets his 4th foul within the first 2 minutes. I mean, it was right away. They smartly put him on the bench. And Drew, I said, put him on the bench for 10 minutes. And they kind of did, because that's what they had to do.
Yeah, they had to. And that's really when Georgetown took advantage. Guys like Michael Graham and Reggie Williams really were able to get their way in the paint. And then Ewing got in some foul trouble too. But like they were really able to, the Georgetown bigs off the bench, they were really able to just like get what they wanted. They were able to get some points, get some offensive rebounds, and that was a big turnaround this game.
Alvin Franklin really stepped up for this Houston team, something we have to say. He finished the night with 21 points. We'll give all the scores at the end here, but after the 4th foul, a few minutes passed by. Here it is, the technical foul. The technical foul called in this game makes absolutely 0 sense. I'm going to set the stage and try and explain it the best I can. So, player for Georgetown goes up, misses a shot. They try and get the offensive rebound, the big man, and he's just going to put it back down. He's going to slam it in, and he grabs the ball, puts it down, barely touches the rim. And I mean, barely touches the rim as this ball goes in. And all of a sudden, well, I should also say there was a foul called on the shot that went in. It was an and one. So Georgetown ends up getting a free throw. However, a technical foul was called against Georgetown for quote unquote hanging on the rim, I guess, pulling the rim down. So then Houston gets 2 free throws. This is something you have to see to believe, because I don't understand for the life of me what the refs were looking at. And we saw a bunch of replays from the same angle over and over. Dude didn't even touch the rim.
Yeah, it was a really bad call. Color commentary guy, like you mentioned, he was ripping at the refs for this one, and the crowd was booing, and it was just something you don't call in a championship game. You don't call that, and it wasn't even something you call in a regular season game. It was a really ticky-tacky technical foul, and I don't even know if it's a thing, and that's what it was.
It's a mouthful, ticky-tacky technical foul, but it was, to say the least. Please go watch it. I mean, you just got to go in the second half, and not good at all. That, I mean, we knew the refs were bad, but at that point, that solidifies it. Like, these were absolutely terrible. So, like I said, Alvin Franklin, easy for me to say. He did very well. 9 points to start the second half. He was doing hot with Hakeem on the bench, and then hurt his left knee. He kind of went down after a shot. What would have been a flagrant nowadays in the NBA. It was no call at the time. He went down. I think he was back in after the break, though. I don't think it was really anything too bad. 8:10 to go. We'll set the stage. Georgetown leads 61-56, so pretty close game at this point. And finally, Patrick Ewing gets on the board in the second half. He had 3 fouls for a majority of the half, so maybe he was playing a little safe. Finally gets his first points of the second half, and that's 14 minutes in. So he really wasn't a factor. Like Drew said, other players for Georgetown were stepping up, and now 2:16 to go. They lead 74-68, big Georgetown lead. And Drew, the charge call. You remember that? Want to talk about it?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, was it against Georgetown?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so a Houston player was dribbling up?
No, a Georgetown player.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So a Georgetown player was dribbling up the court, and a Houston player tried to cut him off. Was not set whatsoever. He's just moving left and right with him, and then he finally just decided to fall. And that's basically what happened. I don't know how else to explain it. And guy wasn't set. It was something you would. It was an easy block call in today's NBA, I swear. And it's just, right away the ref's like, nope, go the other way.
It's not like the Georgetown player even dove in with his shoulder either. I mean, he just barely touched him. Same with the rim situation. They called a charge. Terrible, terrible, terrible referees. Terrible second half. Final 5 minutes took a very long time. I mean, the second half took an hour. So it was very, very long to end the game after the charge. There's 70 seconds left. 4 Houston players have 4 fouls. So I mean, they're kind of screwed. I mean, they're down big. 4 guys in foul trouble, and that's about it. Minute left. Georgetown up by 8. Houston has nothing left to show for it. Anything you want to mention about these teams' offenses, though? I mean, just the mid-range for Georgetown was terrible. They had to keep themselves alive in the paint.
Yeah, they really did. And it was just all these offensive rebounds that they were able to garnish throughout the game. They were able to just have their way in the paint, like we've mentioned. They had a couple nice lobs. Michael Graham was catching some really nice lobs. Ewing did a really great job in the post, I thought. Even though we only finished the game with 10 points, we really saw him as a playmaker. He made some excellent touch passes, we both noticed. And he just was really able to – he just knew where everyone was on the court. And it was just it was really great to see that.
Yeah, more of in the first half than the second. You saw a lot of it where they would get it inside to him, and he would either go up real quick or a little touch pass to the outside. But either way, Ewing finishes the game with 10 points. Like Drew said, 9 rebounds. He led the way for the team. Reggie Williams had 7 rebounds in the game. Leading scorer off the bench, Reggie Williams, 19 points. Really did a good job. He was 9 of 18 from the field. I didn't realize he shot that many times. David Wingate, 16 points, 14 for Michael Graham. So the two bench players had 2 of the top 3 scorers for Georgetown, which is crazy in a championship game, but shows how much depth they really have. Michael Jackson, no, not that Michael Jackson. He has 11 points, and then 10 for Patrick Ewing to round things off for their top scorers. Houston, Alvin Franklin, who had a huge second half, 21 points on the night, 18 for Michael Young. Hakeem Olajuwon, 15 points. Drew, did you want to touch on Michael Young real quick? His brother, what we learned about him?
Yeah, we learned something during the game even. That's the nice thing about watching these broadcasts. You learn something new. And Michael Young, his brother died supposedly a few nights before this game. So it was a really an emotional game for Michael Young. And I'm glad he played. I thought he played very well. And he shot 8 for 21. That's not horrible, but I'm just great he could kind of have a great game to have a tribute for his brother. I don't know.
Yeah, he made the best of it. I mean, we know he went on to get drafted in the first round, but I mean, his brother got shot. Like that's some serious business. That's crazy going into a game like this. Hakeem, I think I said 15 points on the night, 9 rebounds, led the way. Hakeem was not a good free throw shooter. You want to talk about a modern day Giannis? I mean, 3 of 7 from the line just wasn't good.
Yeah, he shot 53% for the season, Jordan, and he shot under that average tonight with a 43% outing here. So that's always something. And even when he shoots it, they were not competitive misses. They really weren't. It was off really far left, off really far right. One that was really short. It was just he was missing everywhere.
Yeah, he kind of just threw him up there too. Like whatever happens. And I think he got his offensive rebound, one of them maybe, but I don't know. It just wasn't a good night for him. We also learned he fouled out of the first 8 games of the year. Like he was aggressive, and I think that they were like finally like, hey, tone it down. We really don't need this. And that was it for I mean, a pretty solid night, but just not the best. Certainly would have expected better from him in a big time situation. Only putting up 10 points, but he had to show for him All-American team. Drew's going to read these to wrap things up here. Consensus first team, maybe mention a few names from the second, but the first team, pretty stacked.
Oh, yes, it was, Jordan. We got some big names here. Patrick Ewing, a junior center from Georgetown. Michael Jordan, a junior guard from North Carolina. Hakeem Olajuwon, a junior from Houston. Sam Perkins, then a forward, a senior from North Carolina. So there's 2 first-team All-Americans for North Carolina. And then the final one, Wayman Tisdale, a sophomore from Oklahoma. And then for second team, I'm going to read some bigger names. We got Chris Mullen, a junior from St. John's. We got Devin Durant, not Kevin, but Devin, a senior from Brigham Young. And then we got Michael Cage, a senior forward from San Diego State.
I'm not going to lie, I kind of did read that as Kevin Durant at first. I mean, it's just you see the name Durant, and that's what you look for. Major Player of the Year awards. Wooden Award, Naismith Award, Associated Press Player of the Year, UPI Player of the Year, NABC Player of the Year, Oscar Robertson Trophy, Adolph Ruth Trophy, and the Sporting News Player of the Year. Michael Jordan wins every single one of them. I mean, you want to talk about domination? That is exactly what he did. So that wraps it up. A relatively uneventful second half in Houston and Georgetown. Nothing too much to talk about in it. I mean, we liked watching the first half, getting into the game. The crowd was electric compared to that Super Bowl we watched where you couldn't really hear the crowd. They weren't mic'd up well. I told you, I mean, I think it's because this was basketball. It was indoors. I mean, even though it was in what was it, the Sky Dome, I think it was called?
The Kingdom.
Kingdom, yes, that's what it was. Almost 40,000 people. They were loud. They let you hear it. I mean, I got really annoyed by the airball chant after everyone was shooting free throws. Little annoying. I thought they were just doing it for Akeem, which made sense because he's not a good free throw shooter, but no, they did it for everyone. So that's that. Next week, episode 6, we have left it up to you guys. So if you didn't see on Monday, we released a poll on our Instagram deciding the World Series. Drew, which two were up again? Was it 2001 and 86? Was that the two?
The two candidates, yes, they are, Jordan. The 2001 World Series, Diamondbacks versus Yankees, and the 1986 World Series, Mets versus Red Sox. So go vote on the Instagram. We need your opinions, and we want to watch a great game.
Yeah. How long are Instagram polls? Are they only a day?
We'll do them a day, but we'll pin it on our profile so you can find it.
Smart. I mean, yeah, we're full disclosure. We recorded this Thursday night, basically a week in advance. This is the night after game 1 of Bucks and Nets. Bucks and Hawks. I wasn't even sure if I was going to have a voice for this, but thankfully we got it done. It's in the books. We watched the game. Very enjoyable. Very good business meeting in the basement of the Skyberg household. I mean, things are looking good for the podcast moving forward. Can't wait for next week. World Series, our second one. If you haven't seen Braves and Twins or listened to that, gotta do it. Go back, get that thing done. And the key to picking these World Series games, my two criterias, has to be under 3 hours, and it has to be like a relatively decent game in good picture. Because I mean, I looked, if we would have done 65, oh boy, that was going to be bad. I mean, it was hard enough to watch like a basketball game like this where they don't even put the score up every time. I don't know how many times we were like, what's the score? What's the score? Like, we were just confused.
Yeah, and even there's no shot clock here, but like even when there's like a shot clock, we want to kind of see the clock, and it's sometimes even frustrating. Like we want to know the score, and we want to know the time. We want to know a lot of things, and when the broadcast doesn't give it to us, I mean, it's kind of annoying.
And that was another thing with the announcers too. They didn't really help us either. I mean, I think they said the score a few times before like a break, and that was it. I mean, it's just very not good announcers in this game. But I can't really say too many bad things about them because I'm not at that level yet. And once I'm there, I feel like then I can critique them. Then it's a little more fair. But that wraps it up. Our 84 championship March Madness tournament. Georgetown beats Houston to win the tournament. Drew, where can the people find you?
They can find me on Instagram, Drew Skyberg, DREWSKYBERG.
If you haven't noticed, I don't plug all of our stuff until the end of the Summer Sports Spectacular. I feel like that's more of, a weekly podcast thing to get it all out of the way at first. This, we get right into it, talk all about the things. So we're on YouTube, Jordan and Drew, the sports crew on there. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Leave those 5-star reviews. Instagram, Jordan Drew _sports crew, keeping us over 50 followers. Thank you all very, very much. If you bought a t-shirt, we shouted you out on episode 16 this week. We said the name of every single person who bought a shirt. Can't thank you all enough for your support. I'm on Twitter, Jordan Law _PXP. I'm back over 40 followers. I'm at 41 now. So we got money back up there. Very, very thankful for that. And thank you all for listening to Jordan and Drew, the sports crew, the Summer Sports Spectacular, the perfect podcast for you.